8 years ago, I started my software development company in my garage with nothing but a laptop and an idea. Today, we employ 43 people and generate 7 figures annually. Not bad for a guy who used to fix computers at Best Buy for $12 an hour. But my wife has been acting strange lately. Very strange. It started 3 months ago when she began asking detailed questions about our business contracts. Questions that seemed way too specific for casual interest. She wanted to know about our partnership agreements, our client retention rates, even our vendor relationships. When I asked why the sudden curiosity, she'd just shrug and say she wanted to understand what I do all day. Then came the mysterious phone calls. Calls she'd always take in the other room, speaking in hushed tones. When I'd walk in, she'd quickly end the conversation with a generic, "Okay, talk later." I caught fragments here and there, mentions of documentation, assets, and timeline. Last week, I noticed her having coffee with people I'd never seen before. Professional-looking types with briefcases and serious expressions. When I asked about it later, she claimed they were just friends from her yoga class. Funny thing is, she doesn't do yoga. The breaking point came yesterday morning. I was reviewing quarterly reports when she stormed into my home office, practically vibrating with confidence. "We need to talk," she announced, planting herself in the chair across from my desk. "About what?" "About where all the money is actually going." She crossed her arms. "I know you're hiding assets. Offshore accounts, shell companies, the whole thing. I'm not stupid." I set down my coffee and stared at her. "What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. A business this size, the revenue you claim we're making, the numbers don't add up with what I see in our personal accounts. The business accounts and personal accounts are completely separate. You know that." She leaned forward, eyes narrowing. That's exactly what someone hiding money would say. I felt something shift in my chest. Not panic, not anger, just a cold, clear understanding that my wife had just accused me of financial fraud in my own home. "So what exactly are you suggesting?" I asked quietly. "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you. I've hired Arthur Bates from McGee Forensic Accounting. He's coming in next week to conduct a complete audit of your company. Every transaction, every contract, every bank statement. We're going to find where you've been stashing the missing money." Arthur Bates. I knew that name. Former FBI financial crimes investigator turned private forensic accountant. The guy who'd uncovered the Porter Industries embezzlement scandal last year. This wasn't some amateur she'd hired off Google. "You hired a forensic accountant to investigate my company without discussing it with me first. I don't need your permission to protect my financial interests." Her voice carried absolute certainty. "Half of everything you've built belongs to me, and I have a right to know where it actually is." I studied her face for a long moment. The confidence radiating from her was almost impressive. She genuinely believed she was about to expose some massive financial conspiracy. "When does this audit start?" I asked. "Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp. And before you even think about it, I've already instructed them to examine all backup files and archive data. So don't bother trying to hide or delete anything over the weekend." She stood up, smoothing down her dress like she just won a debate. "This is happening whether you cooperate or not. But cooperation will make things go much smoother for everyone involved." I leaned back in my chair, watching her prepare to leave. "You know what? Go ahead. Give Arthur Bates complete access to everything. Every file, every backup, every financial record we have. I'll even provide him with administrative access to our servers." She paused in the doorway, clearly not expecting such easy agreement. "Good. I'm glad you're finally being honest about this." After she left, I sat there for a few minutes, thinking. Then I picked up my phone and called our IT director. "Hey Silas, it's me. I need you to prepare complete access logs for our financial systems going back 2 years. Everything. User access, file modifications, login timestamps. The works." "Sure thing. Any particular reason?" "Let's just say we're about to have some very thorough visitors next week, and I want to make sure they see absolutely everything. Because here's the thing about forensic accountants. They don't just find what you're looking for. They find everything that doesn't belong." Monday morning arrived with Arthur Bates and 2 associates rolling up to our office building in a black SUV loaded with equipment cases. Professional, methodical, and clearly expensive. My wife had spared no expense for this fishing expedition. I met them in the lobby. Arthur was exactly what you'd expect. Mid-50s, sharp suit, briefcase that probably cost more than most people's cars. His handshake was firm, his eye contact direct. "I appreciate your cooperation with this process," he said. "We'll do our best to minimize disruption to your operations." "Not a problem. You'll have complete access to whatever you need." My wife appeared beside me, practically glowing with anticipation. She dressed for the occasion, business attire, hair pulled back, looking like she was about to attend a board meeting rather than what she hoped would be my professional execution. "Arthur, I can't thank you enough for taking this on," she gushed. "I know you're going to find exactly what we discussed." Arthur nodded politely, but didn't commit to anything. Professional courtesy. I led them upstairs to our main conference room, which we'd cleared out for their use. Silas had already set up dedicated workstations with access to our systems. "Here's your workspace," I announced. "Silas Porter here is our IT director. He'll provide technical support for anything you need." Arthur's team immediately began unpacking their equipment, laptops, external drives, document scanners, and what looked like specialized forensic software. "We'll start with a general overview of your financial structure," Arthur explained. "Bank accounts, revenue streams, major contracts, that sort of thing. Then we'll drill down into specific transactions and patterns." "Sounds thorough." My wife stepped forward, unable to contain herself. "Arthur, I specifically want you to focus on the contracts with Sutton Technologies and any consulting agreements from the past 2 years. I have a strong feeling that's where you'll find the irregularities." I raised an eyebrow. Sutton Technologies was our biggest competitor. We'd had exactly 0 business dealings with them. Why would she specifically mention them? Arthur made a note. "We'll examine all business relationships, of course. Mrs., just call me by my first name," she said quickly. "And please, pay special attention to any offshore consulting arrangements. I'm convinced there are accounts he hasn't disclosed." Arthur glanced at me, then back at her. "We'll be comprehensive in our review." For the next hour, I watched my wife hover around Arthur's team like a vulture circling roadkill. She kept making suggestions about where to look, what patterns to investigate, even specific time periods that might be suspicious. The problem was, she knew way too much. She mentioned invoice numbers I'd never discussed with her, referenced client names from contracts she shouldn't have access to, even suggested they examine backup reconciliation files from March through August, terminology that someone without accounting experience wouldn't typically use. Around 11 a.m., Arthur pulled me aside. "Your wife seems very knowledgeable about your business operations," he observed carefully. "Yeah, I noticed that too. Interesting, isn't it?" He studied my expression. "Has she been involved in your financial management?" "Never. She doesn't even have access to our business banking. Different banks, different accounts, completely separate." Arthur made another note. "I see. Well, we'll proceed with our standard methodology regardless." "Arthur," my wife called from across the room, "I need you to look at these server backup logs. I think there might be hidden partitions or encrypted directories that aren't showing up in the standard file structure." Silas looked confused. "Ma'am, our backup system doesn't work that way. All data is transparently archived and indexed." "Just check anyway," she insisted. "Sometimes these things are hidden in places you wouldn't normally look." I watched Silas exchange a glance with me. He'd been with the company for 4 years and had designed our entire IT infrastructure. If anyone would know about hidden directories, it would be him. Arthur spent the rest of the day methodically going through our books. Every transaction categorized, every contract examined, every bank statement cross-referenced. My wife remained glued to his shoulder, offering commentary and suggestions. At 5 p.m., Arthur approached me with his preliminary findings. "I need to be honest with you," he said quietly. "So far, your financial records are remarkably clean. Everything is properly documented, categorized, and reconciled. No red flags whatsoever." "That's good to hear. However, I did find something unusual. Not about your finances, but about system access logs. It appears someone has been accessing your business files from an external location. Someone with administrative privileges." I felt my stomach tighten. "What kind of access?" "Contract modifications, invoice adjustments, even some alterations to vendor agreements. The timestamps show these activities happening during off hours, typically late at night or early morning." "Do you know who?" Arthur glanced toward where my wife was still hovering around his equipment. "The user credentials trace back to an account that was created 3 months ago. Administrative level access. The account holder listed is..." He paused, checking his notes. "Your wife's email address." I stared at him. "That's impossible. She doesn't have administrative access to anything in our system. According to the logs, this account has been systematically accessing and modifying business documents for the past 93 days. 3 months, right around the time she started asking all those detailed questions about our contracts. What kind of modifications? I asked. Arthur's expression grew serious. That's what we need to find out tomorrow. Tuesday morning, Arthur arrived with a different energy. Less exploratory, more investigative. He'd clearly found something that shifted his entire focus. My wife was already there, coffee in hand, looking confident as ever. She'd barely slept, I could tell. Probably spent all night imagining the moment Arthur would present evidence of my supposed financial crimes. "Good morning, Arthur. I trust you'll have some answers for me today," she said brightly. Arthur nodded politely, but didn't share her enthusiasm. "We'll certainly have information to discuss." He'd brought additional equipment today, document authentication scanners, and what looked like digital forensics hardware. This wasn't standard accounting audit gear anymore. "Before we continue," Arthur said, "I need to review some discrepancies we discovered yesterday, specifically regarding document modifications in your system." He pulled out a thick folder and spread several printed pages across the conference table. "These are contract amendments that were processed in your system over the past 3 months. However, when we compare them to the original versions in your archive files, there are significant differences." My wife leaned forward eagerly. "What kind of differences? Hidden clauses? Secret payments?" Arthur ignored her question and looked directly at me. "The modifications appear to be unauthorized alterations to existing client agreements. Specifically, changes to termination clauses and asset transfer provisions." He pointed to one document. "This is your original contract with Brighton Software Solutions. Standard terms, exclusive licensing agreement, 5-year duration." Then he showed another version. "This is the same contract as it currently exists in your active files. Notice the addition of a termination clause that allows for immediate asset transfer to third parties under specific conditions." I studied both documents. The differences were subtle but significant. Someone had essentially rewritten our contracts to include exit strategies that would benefit outside parties. "Who made these modifications?" I asked. Arthur checked his notes. "The user logs show all changes were made using administrative account credentials registered to." He paused, glancing at my wife. "The same account we discussed yesterday." My wife's confident expression faltered for just a moment. "That's impossible. I don't even understand legal contracts." Yet the modifications show sophisticated knowledge of contract law and corporate asset management. Arthur continued, "particularly concerning asset transfer procedures." He pulled out another document. "This becomes more interesting when we examine your vendor agreements. Several have been modified to include clauses that would facilitate rapid acquisition by competing firms." Silas spoke up from his workstation. "Actually, Arthur, I found something else while running those system diagnostics you requested." He turned his laptop around to show us a screen full of data. "These are email logs from our server. Automated backups of all business correspondence. Look at this pattern." The screen showed outgoing emails sent from an internal account to external addresses. Dozens of them over the past 3 months. "Someone has been forwarding our internal communications to an address registered with Sutton Technologies," Silas explained. "Client lists, project specifications, pricing information, strategic planning documents." My wife went very still. "Sutton Technologies? That's your competitor, right?" "Our biggest competitor," I confirmed, watching her reaction carefully. "The same company you specifically asked Arthur to investigate yesterday." Arthur set down his pen and studied my wife with new interest. "That's correct. You did specifically mention Sutton Technologies during our initial briefing. How did you know to focus on that particular company?" I just heard the name mentioned before. Business talk, you know how it is." "The interesting thing," Arthur continued, "is that these email forwards coincide exactly with the timeline of contract modifications. Someone was simultaneously altering our agreements and sharing confidential information with our primary business competitor." He opened his laptop and pulled up what appeared to be a financial analysis. But here's where things get truly concerning. We found evidence of monetary transactions connected to these activities. Small amounts, transferred monthly to a personal account through what appear to be fictitious consulting arrangements. My wife's coffee cup rattled slightly as she set it down. "Consulting arrangements?" "Yes. Someone created fake consulting agreements with non-existent companies, then processed payments through your business accounts. The funds were then transferred to external accounts. Arthur turned to face my wife directly. The account receiving these payments is registered under your name. The room went dead silent. That's ridiculous, my wife said, but her voice had lost its earlier confidence. I don't have any consulting arrangements with this company. No, Arthur agreed. You don't, but someone using your credentials created them anyway. Someone with intimate knowledge of your business operations and access to your financial systems. He stood up and walked around the table, his demeanor shifting from accountant to investigator. Ma'am, I need to ask you directly. Do you have any business relationships with Sutton Technologies? Of course not. Why would I? Because according to the email logs, you've been in regular correspondence with their acquisition department for the past 2 months. My wife's face went pale. For the first time since this whole thing started, she looked genuinely scared. I think there's been some kind of mistake, she said quietly. Arthur gathered his documents. Tomorrow, we'll be conducting a formal interview regarding these findings. I'd strongly recommend you consider bringing legal representation. After Arthur and his team left, my wife disappeared into our bedroom and spent the next 3 hours on the phone with someone. I could hear her voice through the door, urgent, desperate, completely different from the confident woman who'd been so eager to expose my supposed crimes just 24 hours earlier. Wednesday morning, Arthur requested a private meeting with me before my wife arrived. We sat in my office with the door closed while his team continued their investigation in the conference room. I need to be completely transparent with you, Arthur began. This is no longer a standard financial audit. What we've uncovered constitutes serious criminal activity. He opened a comprehensive file folder and spread the contents across my desk. Over the past 3 days, we've documented a systematic pattern of corporate fraud. Contract forgeries, unauthorized fund transfers, theft of proprietary information, and conspiracy to facilitate hostile acquisition. I studied the evidence laid out before me. Email printouts, transaction records, modified contracts, system access logs. It was overwhelming. Your wife has been working with Sutton Technologies to artificially devalue your company and facilitate a forced buyout at below market rates. The contract modifications she made would have legally enabled them to acquire your intellectual property and client base for approximately 30% of actual value. Arthur pointed to a series of financial documents. These fake consulting agreements generated nearly $47,000 in fraudulent payments over 3 months. The money was deposited into an account she shares with someone named Taylor Marsh. Who's Taylor Marsh? According to our research, Taylor Marsh is a business development executive at Sutton Technologies, specifically their acquisition specialist. The pieces were falling into place. My wife hadn't been looking for hidden money. She'd been actively stealing it while setting up my company for corporate takeover. There's more, Arthur continued. The email logs show she's been feeding Sutton Technologies detailed intelligence about your operations, client contracts, pricing strategies, product development timelines, even employee compensation structures. He handed me a printed email chain. This correspondence shows they were planning to complete the acquisition by December 1st. Your wife would receive a $200,000 finder's fee plus a management position in the merged company. I felt a cold anger settling in my chest. Not the hot, explosive kind. The calculated, strategic kind. What's our next step? Legally speaking, you have multiple options. Corporate fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, theft of trade secrets. These are federal crimes with serious penalties. Arthur closed the file and looked me directly in the eye. But first, I need to confront her with this evidence. Standard procedure requires that we give her an opportunity to respond before finalizing our report. This afternoon, I've requested she bring legal representation, though I doubt she understands how serious this situation has become. At 2 p.m., my wife arrived with a lawyer. Not the corporate attorney she probably needed, but a general practice guy who looked like he handled wills and traffic tickets. Arthur had arranged the conference room like a formal deposition. Recording equipment, court reporter, the full setup. My wife's confidence from earlier in the week had completely evaporated. Before we begin, Arthur announced, I want to make it clear that anything discussed here may be used in subsequent legal proceedings. My wife's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. What exactly are the allegations here? Arthur methodically presented the evidence. Every forged document, every unauthorized transfer, every piece of stolen information. He laid out the conspiracy with Sutton Technologies in excruciating detail. My client categorically denies these accusations, the lawyer said weakly. Arthur pulled out a laptop and turned it toward my wife. This is a recorded phone conversation between your client and Taylor Marsh from Sutton Technologies, discussing the timeline for asset transfer and her compensation structure. He pressed play. My wife's voice filled the room, crystal clear, discussing how to expedite the process and minimize resistance from the current ownership structure. The lawyer's face went white. There must be some explanation, my wife said desperately. I was protecting our financial interests. By forging contracts and stealing proprietary information? Arthur asked calmly. I wasn't stealing anything. I have a right to know about our financial situation. You have a right to transparency about marital assets. You don't have a right to commit federal crimes against a business you don't own. Arthur turned to me. For the record, your wife has never held any legal position in your company. No ownership stake, no management authority, no fiduciary responsibility. Her actions constitute criminal fraud against an independent business entity. My wife looked around the room desperately, as if searching for an escape route that didn't exist. This is all a misunderstanding, she said. I can explain everything. Please do. Arthur replied, pen ready. She opened her mouth, then closed it, opened it again, then looked at her lawyer, who was now furiously taking notes and looked like he wanted to be anywhere else in the world. I think my client needs time to consult with specialized counsel, he finally said. Arthur nodded. That would be advisable. However, I need to inform you that we'll be submitting our findings to the appropriate authorities regardless of whether your client chooses to cooperate further. After they left, Arthur turned to me with a grim expression. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've seen embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy, you name it. But I've never seen someone systematically destroy their own family's financial security with such precision. He gathered his equipment. Your wife didn't just commit crimes against your business. She committed crimes that will likely result in federal prosecution, asset forfeiture, and significant prison time. How significant? Wire fraud, computer fraud, conspiracy to commit theft of trade secrets? She's looking at potentially 10 to 20 years in federal prison. Arthur paused at the door. The irony is, if she'd simply asked for a divorce, she would have been entitled to a substantial settlement based on the legitimate value of your company. Instead, she chose to destroy it and commit multiple felonies in the process. That evening, I sat in my office reviewing everything Arthur had uncovered. My wife had spent 3 months methodically dismantling everything I'd built, all while pretending to be concerned about hidden assets. Tomorrow, Arthur would finalize his report and submit it to the FBI. My wife's attempt to expose my supposed financial crimes had instead exposed her actual ones. The forensic accountant she'd hired to destroy me was about to destroy her instead. Thursday morning arrived with federal agents at my door. Arthur had wasted no time submitting his report to the FBI's Corporate Fraud Division. By 8 a.m., Special Agent Eleanor Sutton, no relation to the technology company, thankfully, was sitting in my office with a briefcase full of warrants and questions. Mr. Gibson, we appreciate your cooperation with this investigation, she said, setting up recording equipment. Arthur Bates has provided us with comprehensive evidence of criminal conspiracy involving your business. We need to verify a few details before we proceed with arrests. Arrests? Plural. How many people are we talking about? Your wife, obviously. Taylor Marsh from Sutton Technologies. And potentially several others who facilitated the conspiracy. Agent Sutton opened her laptop. We've been monitoring Sutton Technologies for suspicious acquisition practices for the past year. Your wife's case provides the evidence we needed to move forward with a broader investigation. She showed me financial records I'd never seen before. Sutton Technologies has been systematically targeting small tech companies using this exact method. They recruit inside sources, usually spouses or business partners, to sabotage operations and facilitate below-market acquisitions. How many companies? 17 over the past 3 years. Your wife's case is actually the most sophisticated we've seen. The level of access she gained and the systematic nature of her sabotage required considerable planning. Agent Sutton pulled out a printed email chain. These communications show she was recruited by Taylor Marsh 6 months ago. They met at a business networking event you attended together. She was specifically targeted because of your company's growth potential. I remembered that event. Some generic business mixer downtown. My wife had insisted on going, said she wanted to understand my world better. I thought it was sweet. They offered her a $250,000 payment plus a guaranteed executive position if she could facilitate the acquisition within 6 months. The timeline was aggressive because your company's value was increasing rapidly. So this was all planned from the beginning? Everything. The suspicious behavior, the forensic accountant, even her accusations against you. It was designed to create chaos and provide cover for the asset transfer. Agent Sutton's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and smiled grimly. That was my partner. Your wife just tried to withdraw $200,000 from an account in the Cayman Islands. An account she didn't know we'd already frozen. 20 minutes later, Agent Sutton received another call. This time, her expression was satisfied. Taylor Marsh just confessed to everything. Apparently, when he learned federal agents were involved, he decided cooperation was his best option. She gathered her equipment. We'll be executing arrest warrants this afternoon. Your wife will be charged with wire fraud, computer fraud, conspiracy to commit theft of trade secrets, and money laundering. Federal charges with mandatory minimum sentences. What happens to my company? Nothing. You're the victim here. Your business operations can continue normally, though I'd recommend upgrading your cybersecurity and reviewing all access credentials. After Agent Sutton left, I called our company attorney. Within 2 hours, we'd filed for emergency divorce proceedings based on criminal fraud and requested immediate asset protection orders. By 3 p.m., my wife was in federal custody. I watched from my office window as she was escorted from our house in handcuffs. The same confident woman who'd hired Arthur Bates to expose my supposed crimes was now facing 25 years in federal prison for her actual ones. Arthur stopped by my office that afternoon to deliver his final report. This has been the most unusual case of my career, he admitted. I've never had someone hire me to investigate crimes they were actively committing. What happens now? The federal case will proceed regardless. Your wife's conspiracy with Sutton Technologies violated multiple federal statutes. She'll likely plead guilty to avoid a trial, but she's looking at significant prison time either way. Arthur closed his briefcase and stood to leave. There's something else you should know. We found evidence that she'd been planning to file false tax documents claiming business losses that didn't exist. She was going to use those to justify why your personal assets should be liquidated and split. She thought of everything. Almost everything. She didn't count on a forensic accountant actually being competent at his job. That evening, I sat in my office reviewing the damage assessment. $47,000 in stolen funds. Multiple contracts that would need to be renegotiated. Countless hours of disrupted business operations. But my company was intact. My employees still had jobs. My intellectual property was secure. My phone rang. It was my wife's lawyer. Your wife would like to discuss a settlement arrangement, he said nervously. Perhaps we could work something out that would be mutually beneficial. Settlement for what? Well, she's willing to provide full cooperation with the federal investigation in exchange for your support in requesting leniency during sentencing. I laughed. Actually laughed. Let me understand this correctly. Your client spent 3 months committing federal crimes against my business, tried to steal my intellectual property, and conspired to destroy everything I've built. And now she wants my help avoiding the consequences. She's still your wife. Surely there's some consideration for her. She stopped being my wife the moment she decided to betray everything we built together. Tell her I said good luck with the federal prosecutors. I hung up and looked around my office. Tomorrow, I'd implement new security protocols, review all employee access credentials, strengthen our partnerships with legitimate clients. But tonight, I was going to enjoy the silence. The silence of a man whose wife had tried to destroy him with a forensic accountant, only to discover that the truth has a way of finding the right target. Arthur Bates had done exactly what she'd paid him to do. He'd uncovered financial crimes, just not the ones she was expecting. 6 months later, my company had not only recovered but thrived. The Sutton Technologies scandal made national business news, and our ethical reputation attracted new clients who valued integrity. My ex-wife pled guilty to all federal charges. 22 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole for the first 10. The judge called it one of the most calculated betrayals of marital trust he'd seen in 30 years on the bench. Taylor Marsh got 15 years. Sutton Technologies folded under federal investigation, their executives facing their own criminal charges. 17 other victims came forward with similar stories of corporate sabotage. Arthur Bates testified as the government's key witness. His forensic analysis became the template for identifying this type of conspiracy fraud. The FBI now calls it the Bates method for uncovering inside corporate sabotage. The frozen Cayman Islands account contained nearly $400,000, payments from multiple companies Sutton had targeted. All of it was forfeited to compensate victims. I kept the business, obviously. The divorce settlement was simple. She got nothing. Hard to claim marital assets when you're a convicted felon who tried to steal them. My lawyer had one final meeting with her attorney before sentencing. She wants you to know she's sorry, he told me afterward. Sorry she got caught. Just sorry. I thought about that for exactly 3 seconds. She'd spent our entire marriage planning to destroy me. She'd targeted me through people I trusted, violated every boundary of partnership and loyalty, committed federal crimes that could have destroyed 43 jobs and ruined countless business relationships. Sorry wasn't going to rebuild the trust she'd obliterated. Sorry wasn't going to give me back the months of stress and uncertainty. Sorry wasn't going to undo the systematic betrayal of everything we'd supposedly built together. But justice? Justice had been served beautifully. The forensic accountant she'd hired to expose my fictional crimes had instead exposed her very authentic ones. She'd paid Arthur Bates $50,000 to investigate financial fraud and gotten exactly what she'd purchased, just not the way she'd expected. I'd learned something valuable about trust, about business security, and about the kind of person I'd somehow married without truly knowing. But mostly, I'd learned that sometimes the best defense against someone trying to destroy you is simply letting them destroy themselves. Arthur had called it perfect irony. I called it justice. My ex-wife had wanted a forensic accountant to find where the money was hidden. Mission accomplished.